Hi, I want to talk about mini fascist states, little kingdoms, like Qatar or Israel or little Azerbaijan, northern Azerbaijan, which is splitting up and becoming Azerbaijan and Armenia, and they're both like fascist little states, and they're killing each other. They are a threat to themselves, to the Russians, they're a threat to Iranians, they're a threat to Turkey, but the Turkey is too stupid to understand that because these guys were part of the Safavid Empire. But somebody's descendant has forgotten, doesn't know an old enemy, like treating them like, sometimes kids go into the woodlands or desert and they find the baby poisonous snake and start playing with it. But then they discover later on, hey, I shouldn't be playing with this. This is poisonous. But it's valuable to study these little states like Bahrain, UAE, like Serbia, which was Yugoslavia before, but they destroyed their own country and became several countries because they were racist or they were fascist. They became intolerant of other parts of their federal mini empire and broke up and became several countries. The same goes with Azerbaijan. It's breaking up, becoming a couple of countries, and then what makes these guys tick? What what do you do when you find a baby rattlesnake? If your kids have brought this in, it would be interesting to study it, and see how it looks like, how it works, how it takes. Uh, I think that the United States is gonna become like former Yugoslavia. It has a federal kind of government, and this government was responsive to many different minorities, like just responded to blacks. There were some civil rights. It kind of first committed genocide against the Indians, but then came around with them. And I often wonder why there isn't so little Indian population in the United States. This whole place belonged to them. I hardly ever see any of them, any tribes. Uh, it was there are parts of United States which really don't operate like United States. Like California, you could say that uh, it has a genetic component which is Spanish, which is sizable too, which is like 60% could be said that hey, these guys they're directly or indirectly related to Spanish elsewhere. But uh, usually these kinds of mini empires they destroy themselves. They fascist leader rises up to power, like Hitler, and it destroys other parts of society. Hitler found the excuse to destroy the Jewish portion of the population, destroyed their businesses, destroyed their legal rights, that they were German citizens, gradually marked them down, made them into second citizens, and then got rid of them. and then it, it used this ideology to bolster its industries. The economy for a little while got better. Well, you could say that Trump was doing kind of the same thing. It really damaged a lot of immigration or immigrants' rights. While Trump he still got some time left. He uh, he he made a wall. He made immigration into United States very difficult. Uh, there were incidences where he arrested, some students, Iranian students that were coming in here, put them in jail. I don't know for what, but uh, then now his empire, his mini little empire, is collapsing, and you don't know. Maybe there will be a little violent coup d'état. I had some psychic experiences, but I use this analogy with when a when a large star that has mass over 1.8 or 2 times the mass of our sun, it reaches its end stages of fusion, which means the core of the star has burned out, has become iron, and the iron, because of gravity, is collapsing too, is becoming a neutron. So when this collapse happens, the outer layers of the star still have other material. It has some hydrogen and some carbon on the outer layers, and it explodes into space. Often very spectacular explosion. Actually, there are some stars that they're still burning. In their last stage of fusion. But many scientists, they study this star, and they're saying, hey, this star is going to explode in a massive explosion. But it hasn't happened. It could happen any time. Well, a moment in the life of a star could be a long time, because the star lives billions of years. A moment in the life of a star could be 1,000 years. It could be 10,000 years. But for that star. That's a moment. Well, and when that moment arrives, all kinds of material gets spewed into the space. This is the same when fascist states start forming, and this is the end stage of usually like a federalist kind of empire, like the Soviets or the federal German republics. There were a bunch of republics together, and they fell apart, and the core was just all German remained. It was like a neutron star, very violent, militant state. It became rapidly consolidated itself. I think there's something similar to this will happen to United States. That some states, I could speculate, like states that have less population, but very much more Republican. Look on the map and see red states, or places like that have a tradition of all white politicians, all certain way of thinking, and they will form a separate republic, and this republic could could not exist geographically, could exist politically, but it will kind of form itself after a little while. Uh, well, I think that maybe in United States, maybe the Trump camp will turn violent, and a part of the military will go along with them, and then there will be skirmishes between these two groups, and they will lose for a while, and then 4 years or 10 years down the road, just like a moment in the life of a star, then another kind of Trump will emerge. Well, actually, the fascist Hitler didn't really uh, took over Germany. It took them a while. It took them a few years. They lost elections and they went away, and then they did few things. They came back, and once they won again, then they totally changed the constitution of the Germany. Germany was kind of like a democratic system. Then it completely became fascist, and the elections were afterwards completely rigged. Uh, this is the hallmark of emerging fascist state. Is like one leader. He's there all the time. There really isn't an election or anything, but this guy keeps coming back. Well, in Turkey, after the Ottomans, there were the Ataturk. It was kind of like a fascist leader. In Iran, we had fascist uh, leader. It was Muhammad Reza Pahlavi, the son of Reza Shah. But Reza Shah, he had sympathies towards fascists. But I like to study these regimes because when they form, they cause a lot of trouble. Many people get killed in the process. For example, when Saddam Hussein was in power, he was kind of like a fascist leader. He really was emerged from the extreme Sunni, extreme Arab. He didn't really belong to Iraq. Iraq is mostly Shia Kurds, like 85%. I don't know, most of the Sunnis have run away or they've gone underground. The other 15%, but uh, you know, Saddam was from this group. Uh, he wasn't the same can be said in the United States. Uh, Genetically and culturally, not few people are really part of Trump. They are affiliated with him because they're kind of seduced by his political control and something like that. But it was more extreme in Iraq. But when these fascist regimes form, they kind of need the enemy. They need the Iranians. We need to destroy Iran because they are a threat. For example, in Azerbaijan, they need to destroy the Armenians. Well, even, just like Germany, the Jews that were in Germany, they were the German Jews. They were not some alien species. They spoke German. They were citizens of Germany, and the same with Azerbaijan and places like UAE. There's this group that is genetically related to the Khalifa, but the rest of the population, we don't know who they are. A lot of them are descendants of Iranians, or they're Pakistani immigrants, or Indians, or some have come from other Arab countries like Egypt, Misr. Uh, the government has no relationship to the population. They're like a creation. But studying these little mini fascist states is very valuable because there will come a time that you have to destroy them. You have to destroy their government. You have to destroy their military. You have to because they cause a lot of trouble. For example, Azerbaijan could easily expand its relationship with CIA, United States, and install rockets and nuclear-tipped weapons, which are within minutes of Moscow or within minutes of Tehran. Or it could, it's unstable little regime. It could join with Turkey, and then the Turkey will have all these belligerent Shia and Armenians as part of its population, and will explode from inside. The Turkey itself will disintegrate, and that's the analogy of like kids finding a rattlesnake baby in the woods, and they brought it in, and the family forgot. Hey, hey, this is a baby rattlesnake. You shouldn't have this in our living room. But it's really interesting comparison. But in our world, these Ukrainian kind of governments, they're sponsored usually by CIA, like certain billionaires or certain part of the American state comes in, pumps them up with all this cash, all these weapons that they had never had, and they certain part of this society, like as it's like a tribe, like a Wahhabi tribe, kind of separates from the rest of the population and becomes richer, very weaponized, and then they go around like Saddam. They hire whoever is similar to them, and they make a little military, and then they start wars. And this goes on either slowly, like in the case of Iraq, it takes some decades, or faster in kind of like Ukraine. But the recent decades, many like countries which are really established country, which are their federal system is not fascist. Iranian regime is not a fascist regime. It cannot be, because large portions of our population are Armenians, are Kurdish, large portions of Azari, Fars, Lori, Baluchi, you name it. There is a lot of Afghanis. They have just walk over Afghan border. Well, they say we have Iranian. We speak Farsi. There's only like a little accent, but they could easily lose the accent. We end up with 5 million more Iranians. We cannot be a fascist state like Erdogan's Turkey. We cannot be a fascist state like Israel. We cannot fight with our population. We'll be demolished before we even know it. So we have to have egalitarian political system, egalitarian majlis or parliament, that many Iranians can come in and be part of the government. Our Senate cannot be all Azari clergy. It has to be other groups. We are a coalition of government. We are like Safavids. No matter what we think we should be, our thinking has no relationship with reality. Reality says that we are like India, a whole bunch of little groups. We are affiliated with each other over like thousands of years. We are all Iranian, and that's what we have to be. And if there is a state that broke away, like Qatar, well, not Qatar wasn't part of Iran, but like Bahrain or Azerbaijan, it broke away, and now the CIA is there, and they're doing all this and that. They're training them. They be, those states, they are in conflict with Iran or with Russia because they don't belong. They shouldn't exist. There should not be a northern Azerbaijan regime. There should not be Armenia. There should not be a Bahrain. This is a state that was part of Iran, and they will, in order for them to exist, they, they, they need foreign military like Israel. They need the United States to come in to give them weapons, money, train them. For example, Azerbaijan needs Turkey, a belligerent, another fascist state, to come in and bring Wahhabi fighters to fight their war in Karabakh, because they are a creation, they are a nasty creation that doesn't belong to the region. In that region, there is like, there should only be three countries in that Caucasia region, or in Middle East. There are only a handful of countries which are legitimately a country. For example, Syria is like Iran. Afghanistan is like Iran. Syria is a federal. It cannot be all Druze controlled government. It cannot. It, even though some minorities like the Alawis have the upper hand in Syria, they will always have to have a federal system to be interact with the Kurds and the Druze and the Christians and the Jewish that belongs to that place. They were not European Jews. This is a reality. That's a legitimate government that belongs to the place. And these legitimate governments, because they are the legitimate government, because they are responsive to different large portions of their population, they will emerge in any conflict. They will have the upper hand in any conflict, and the people, the population, they know that, hey, this is the government. For example, in Lebanon, even though Hezbollah has the upper hand, but they are a coalition with other groups, the coalition with the Christians, they interact. It's really a fair, in their terms, in their culture, of a federalist system of government. And always these regimes, which are the legitimate regimes, they have the need to get rid of whatever Israel or Azerbaijan kind of regime that has formed outside of their borders, because such regimes, they are a threat. They are an existential threat to Lebanon. Israel is an existential threat to Iran, to other countries. It's a threat to Arabia, which is composed of Saudi Arabia and a host of little mini nations. And that brings us to this other section, is that we need, as Iranian, as Russian, to study these regimes. And we need to learn how to destroy them, how to dismantle them. We need to destroy Azerbaijani northern regime or the Bahraini regime, because these regimes invariably will bring in the Americans or the Israelis and Wahhabis. They cannot exist on their own because they're not related to their own population. They're a creation. They're like a cyst inside the human body. When a portion has become cancerous. Well, I would think of CIA or Mossad as some type of like AIDS virus. They have specialized in how to kill elites, kill foreign leaderships, or to totally bribe them or keep them in fear of their reprisal. A lot of countries, they have government has a legitimate government, but the government or the minority of elites in those countries, that they are really the elite. That for example, I have blue blood. I'm related genetically to other Iranian dynasties. Genetically, I am related to Zarathustrans, which is ancient Iranian kingdoms, or I'm not an alien. I didn't form because of some CIA sponsored coup. I actually there is a cultural or political or intellectual tradition, like like the Kennedy clan. They are not an alien creation to United States. They actually they have a succession of politicians that were part of the government. There is a great deal of integration, and they know each other, right? But the CIA, it specializes, it's like AIDS virus, to come in, make coup d'etat, and overthrow these systems and install, usually what they install is like a belligerent little minority that's willing to kill or commit genocide, like the Saddam Hussein or Azarbaijani, Aliyev, or Khalifa in UAE, is willing to stay in power to kill these different groups. And well, this is a weakness because they don't belong to the society that gave rise to them. Really, the government doesn't belong to them, and that's a weakness. That's a political weakness, that they are not integrated with society. They are alien kind of, and the militaries that these places make, they're not very good military. The weapons, for example, in Saudi Arabia, they all come from United States, and usually they don't even know how to use many of these weapons. They store them because there isn't a tradition of political leadership and military leadership and cultural leadership that's, that grew up was the legitimate government. They're kind of like disconnected. The military is doing things on its own, and then their politicians are doing something else. This weakness can be exploited for example, Iran should try to infiltrate the Saudi or Bahraini military. Their military is Shia, a lot of them, to destroy them from within, or also from without outside, to destroy them and kill them, because our military is not composed of Wahhabis. Iranian military is, you have to be Iranian, and there are different kind of military. For example, the Chinese military is not the same kind of military that the Marines. The Chinese, if you attack Chinese military units, they will not run away. They will not. You could kill all of them, and they will stay there. There is a nationalism. There is a dedication to the place and the regime, because it belongs to the place. But that's not the case with many mini fascist states. That they will go away, or they will sell out, or well, with the fascist Germany, their military would not sell out. They would not go away until like the end of the war, end of the World War II. That they went away en masse to places like Germany and Antarctica, but a lot of them they were German. There is no. This is a weakness. Uh, I don't want to go into studying all the weaknesses of these fascist regimes, but uh, it was interesting that after the Americans they killed General Soleimani, Iran did retaliate. Iran did strike their bases and also killed one of the CIA chiefs. I think Mike DeAndro, but it's amazing how much Iran knows about Americans, American operatives, or Al Qaeda, and it's like Iran is keeping these guys around. You know, they're like a valuable commodity. Uh, like, did Iran really? Can Iran? Could Iran have had destroyed UAE a very long time ago? Yes, I think they benefit from UAE, even though UAE is a bullshit Al Qaeda or Wahhabi system. For example, United States is giving them MQ-9 and F-35. Well, somebody in Iran they likes these weapons, wants to back engineer them. When we actually got MQ4, I had another video about that, but this is a valuable enemy. They're weak. They can be upturned, but why we should do that now? They're valuable. We can ambush them, get latest weapons from the United States. Well, the American military little camps here and there that they have, they're also very valuable. They're soldiers. If, say, for example, we imprison one Marine, I don't know how much money United States will come around and pay for one Marine. I know it would be at least $1 million, maybe more. Why shouldn't kill these guys when we can get all this money from U.S. government? I think their sergeant would be worth how much? 10 million. They are not really soldiers in the traditional sense of the word, but that's not an insult. That's we should specialize in that. I was watching Omid Dana's program. I know a lot of you they don't know this guy. He broadcasts in Persian, but he's much more connected to the Iranian government and system. For example, he was saying that the Iranian government is planning to, well, they had planned to destroy U.S. aircraft carriers. They have the rockets that, stealth rockets, cruise missiles that can completely come and destroy entire aircraft carrier. And there is nothing that can defend against it because these cruise missiles they maneuver in space. They're very fast. It's difficult to hit them while they're flying. But he was saying, well, there's some plans that the Iranian military, IRGC, they don't call them IRGC over there. They call them Sepah, the troops. They're planning to kind of land in a clandestine way on these aircraft carriers and capture one live without destroying it. And then imagine we end up with 5,000 Marines. You know how much money we can get for these guys. 5,000 multiplied by a million each. That's like $5 billion. That's a lot of money to Iranians. Or then how much money we can get for each nuclear bomb that they're storing in these, or cruise missiles, or how much we can sell this whole aircraft carrier. That's they're valuable. Why sink these things? I don't think the Iranian military wants to sink these things. Well, this is weakness that that a military, having a military that's not really a military, but it's a show. Uh, Thank you very much for being my YouTube channel. This material is research. You will not find these things in the internet anywhere, except if you are Iranian, you're listening to Omid Dana, you understand what he's talking about. Otherwise, this stuff should be very fresh news to you or to anybody on the internet. And I do appreciate people subscribe or leave a comment. I don't like being in the dark of what I'm saying, but I know my material is very fresh, very new, and is totally researched. It does show up in really good shows that the Americans have, because you know many good analysts, they're not like the population. They do go around and they look at the real good research. Well, can't you give me a thumbs up or subscribe? I wouldn't know how to make money out of this material, because it's too much of a research, too much stuff that would be news to a lot of people. Thank you again. Please leave comment.